A coward doesn't steal a Navy battle map unless he's already dead. He just hasn't stopped breathing yet. Elias Finch felt his heart stutter against his ribs as the parchment unfurled across the Admiral's mahogany desk, its ink still wet with the scent of salt and treachery. 30 minutes. That's all the sand left in the glass before the morning watch discovered the safe yawning open like a screaming mouth. 30 minutes before bells clanged across the entire fleet and 50 warships. Yes, 50. He counted the silhouettes at sunset, slipped their anchors and turned their cannons toward a single trembling cook-turned-pirate. He wasn't supposed to be here. Not in the cabin, not in this life, not in this war. 3 hours ago Elias was ladling stew for men who laughed at his shaking hands. Now he held the Atlantic in his clenched fist. Routes, supply lines, secret coves drawn so precisely the map felt alive, serpents of ink writhing beneath his thumb. The parchment crackled like dry kindling. One spark, one wrong fold, and the whole world would burn. He stuffed the map inside his shirt, the paper instantly slick with the sweat that always betrayed him. 15 steps to the cabin door. 10 more to the rail. Only one lifeboat left on davits, patched so many times the canvas looked like a quilt of regrets. And below, the black water waited with open jaws. But how do 50 ships chase a man who hasn't decided where to run? The question hung in the salt-heavy air as Elias pressed his back to the bulkhead, listening to the drum of boots overhead, steady, rhythmic, counting down for him. A distant bell tolled once. Boom. Not the sound of cannons yet, just the echo of his pulse in his ears. He tasted iron. Somewhere a gull screamed. Another bell. Boom boom. He forced his legs to move. Each footfall felt like betrayal written in wet sand. The corridor lanterns swung in lazy arcs, casting shadows that looked like nooses. At the foot of the companionway he nearly collided with Ned, the cabin boy, barely 14, eyes wide as doubloons. Ned's mouth opened, closed, opened again. And Mr. Finch? You're bleeding? Elias glanced down. A crimson bead trembled on the parchment's edge, his own thumb sliced by the paper's knife-sharp fold. Blood on the map. Blood on the plan. Blood on his soul. He tried to speak, managed only a hiss. Get below, boy. Ned didn't move. Is that? He saw the corner of parchment peeking from Elias's shirt, recognition dawning like sunrise on a battlefield. You took it? The map. 30 minutes became 29 in the space of a heartbeat. Elias grabbed Ned's collar, felt the boy's pulse racing under his palm. Choices flashed like lightning: silence the witness forever, or trust innocence to keep a secret that could hang them both. In the distance, the bosun's whistle shrilled, sharp, urgent, the sound of a net tightening. Tell me, could you kill to stay free, or would you gamble on the heart of a child who still believes in heroes? Drop your answer below, because the next scene hinges on what you would do. Elias released Ned, shoved him toward the ladder. Not a word, he whispered. Then louder, forcing steel into his voice. Not one word. He turned and ran. The deck exploded into chaos he hadn't caused yet. Men hauling lines, salt spray hissing against gunwales, the horizon already bruised with false dawn. Elias's boots skidded on wet planks. He reached the lifeboat, fingers fumbling at the knot, when the ship's bell rang 3 times, ding ding ding, the signal for all hands on deck. And then he saw the red flag rising. Up the mainmast it climbed, a scarlet slash against gray sky. Not the Admiral's pennant. Not any flag he knew. A warning? A rally? A blood promise? It snapped in the wind like a whip crack, and every sailor froze mid-task, eyes lifting, mouths opening in silent oaths. Elias slashed the final rope. The lifeboat splashed into darkness, bobbing once, twice, taking on water through the patch he'd never mended. He vaulted the rail, heart, map, and cowardice all pressed against his ribs, and dropped. The Atlantic swallowed him to the waist, then spat him into the boat like Jonah from the whale. Oars locked into place. Salt stung his eyes. Behind him, the flagship loomed, a floating fortress now rousing to hunt its own cook. He pulled once, twice, muscles screaming, distance stretching like taffy. But the red flag still flew. And beneath its shadow, 50 warships began to turn. The oars bit into black water like teeth into flesh. Stroke, gasp, each pull costing Elias another heartbeat. 27 minutes. The flagship's silhouette still towered, lanterns swinging across the deck like slow-motion cannon fire. Somewhere inside that wooden labyrinth, a steward would yawn, stretch, and find the safe yawning wider than his mouth. Then the drums would start. Then the chase would begin. Behind him, Ned's whisper cracked like a pistol shot. They'll hang you, Mr. Finch. The boy had followed, of course he had, sliding down a hawser and landing cat-silent in the bow. Now those wide, worshipful eyes were fixed on the rolled parchment peeking from Elias's collar. Give it back. Maybe they'll just flog you. Elias tasted iron again, this time from biting his own tongue to keep from laughing. Flogging. As if lashes could erase treason. He rowed harder, shoulders burning, palms already blistering. The lifeboat leaked with every crest, cold Atlantic sloshed around their ankles. 15 strokes to the channel mouth. 10 more to open sea. After that, what? The horizon was a blade of gray nothing, and the map only showed where treasure was, not where safety lived. A bell clanged, dong dong dong, 3 times, then a pause, then 3 again. The signal for all hands to battle stations. Elias's blood froze mid-stroke. They know. The sound rolled across the water like thunder, and in its echo came a second, more terrible noise, windlass chains rattling as cannons ran out. Iron mouths yawning in his direction. Ned clutched the gunwale. We'll never outrun cannonballs. No. But they might outrun decision. Elias jerked the oars vertical, letting the boat drift between swells. The boy stared, confused, until Elias pressed the map into his small, salt-crusted hands. Take this. What? You can't swim. The words came out flat, unburdened by apology. I can. Ned's face went white as sailcloth. You'd leave me? I'd save you. Elias pointed to the fishing skiff bobbing 100 yards off, nets drying, no crew in sight. Row there. If I draw them off, you'll die. The boy's voice cracked on the last word. Tell me, right now, no time to think, would you sacrifice yourself to save a child who still believes heroes exist, or would you cling to the map in the slim chance it buys your own neck? Type 1 for sacrifice, 2 for survive. The next paragraph depends on what you choose. Decision made, Elias shoved the second oar into Ned's blistered palms. Row straight, don't look back. Then he rolled over the side. The Atlantic swallowed him like a secret, cold, dark, absolute. 4-3 heartbeats he sank, lungs screaming before kicking upward. When he broke the surface, the lifeboat was already shrinking, Ned's small silhouette bent over the oars like a broken-winged bird. Elias swam. Not toward safety, toward the hunters. Each stroke took him closer to the flagship's looming shadow, closer to the mouths of 50 guns. He needed them to see him, to chase him, to forget the boy in the map for just long enough. Salt burned his eyes. The current clawed at his boots. Somewhere behind, Ned's boat vanished into morning mist. A lookout's cry cut the air, pirate in the water. Followed by the unmistakable creak of swivel guns training down. Elias tread water, arms raised, heart hammering so hard he felt it in his teeth. For a single, absurd second he thought they might simply shoot him and be done. Instead, a longboat splashed over the side, 6 oarsmen, 1 officer, all moving with the precision of a closing trap. False victory flared, they were taking the bait. Elias let the current spin him, face upturned to the gray sky, map still plastered to his chest beneath the sodden shirt. They'd search him, find it, and the chase would pivot entirely onto him. Ned would live. The gold would wait. Sacrifice complete. But the officer's voice, when it came, was colder than the water. Where's the boy? Elias blinked. What boy? Don't play stupid. The longboat cut through the swell, oars rising and falling like executioner's blades. We saw 2 silhouettes. One stayed. One fled. Where's the map, Finch? Elias felt the parchment against his skin, suddenly heavier than iron. He glanced over his shoulder, nothing but fog where Ned should be. The boy was safe. Unless the fishing skiff wasn't as empty as he'd prayed. Unless Ned, terrified and alone, had raised the sail. Unless the silhouette the lookout saw wasn't Ned at all, but a second pursuer, black-flagged, sliding silent between waves. A new sound rolled across the water, deep, throaty laughter carried by wind that smelled of gunpowder and betrayal. Not the Navy. Pirates. The hunters had become the hunted, and the map Elias clutched was now a dinner bell for every cutthroat within 10 leagues. The longboat slowed, oars freezing mid-stroke as the officer's gaze snapped toward the horizon. There, 3 masts, black sails, skull grinning, materialized from the fog like a nightmare-given canvas. The pirate sloop's bowsprit aimed straight at the flagship's heart. Elias tread water, caught between 2 fleets that both wanted his head and the parchment beating against his ribs. Ned's silhouette reappeared, tiny, terrified, rowing frantically, directly in the crossfire. The last countdown began. 1 minute until the first broadside. One decision between cowardice and courage. One map that could sink them all. Elias took a breath, tasted salt and destiny, and swam straight into the teeth of both fleets. The parchment was never just parchment. It was skin. Human skin, tanned, inked, and still warm to the touch. Elias felt the truth crawl up his fingertips the moment seawater soaked the edge. The map bled, a thin crimson line seeping from the coastline of Tortuga like the island itself had been flayed alive. The compass rose wasn't ink, it was a brand, raised ridges of scar tissue forming perfect cardinal points. And at the center, where X should have marked a lonely gold cache, there was instead a second map, etched in darker pigment, hidden beneath the first like a secret whispered through centuries of blood. 8 nautical miles to the cache. 9 pirate cannons tracking his wake. 1 heartbeat left before the world exploded upward. Captain Black, he's wearing the map, Ned gasped, voice shredded by spray. The boy clutched the tiller with white knuckles, eyes fixed on the black-sailed sloop now cutting across their bow. That's not parchment. That's him. The skin of the last man who tried to steal it. Elias's stomach lurched harder than the boat. The Navy wanted him for treason. The pirates wanted him for sport. But everyone wanted the second map, because beneath the gold route lay coordinates to a fleet graveyard. 50 scuttled warships loaded with enough powder to level continents, guarded by a kraken rumored to answer only to the map-bearer's blood. Distance counter snapped down, 7 miles. Behind them, the Navy frigate Resolute hoisted battle colors, blood-red cross on midnight field. Ahead, the pirate Crimson Widow unfurled a black flag stitched with human hair. Interactive freeze frame. If you discovered the map was alive, literally carved from a man, would you burn it or bind it to your skin? Type burn or bind now. The story pivots on your vote. Elias's thumb traced the ridge of scarred north. The skin pulsed, thump-thump, like a dying heart sinking with his own. A memory flashed, the admiral's steward whispering that Black's crew drank from skulls still warm. That the kraken's tentacles had been seen curling around the Widow's anchor chain at dusk. That the last bearer's screams lasted 3 days after the map was flayed off. 6 miles. Wind howled like a mother mourning. The Resolute's bow chaser fired, crack. A warning shot that skipped across the wave tops and shattered the lifeboat's port oar. Elias ducked, salt spray stinging like buckshot. Ned screamed, "They're not aiming to sink us, they're hurting us." Elias looked up. The pirate sloop had angled to pin them against the Navy frigate. A pincer of iron and canvas. No escape route left except straight into the graveyard. 5 miles. The Crimson Widow's deck bristled with cutlasses, each blade notched from necks, each notch a coin in Black's collection. The pirate captain himself stood at the prow, coat flapping like raven wings, face hidden by a mask stitched from the last map-bearer's face. Empty eye-holes stared at Elias and the mask's mouth moved, no wind, no voice, just movement, as if the dead skin still tried to speak. Elias's own skin crawled. The map in his shirt itched, then burned as though recognizing its twin. When he pulled it free, the parchment, skin wrinkled into a grin. The coastline of Tortuga shifted, revealing a hidden bay shaped like a skull. Inside the skull, coordinates. And beneath the coordinates, a single word carved in fresh, wet ink. Sacrifice. 4 miles. The Resolute fired again, boom. This time the ball punched through the lifeboat's stern, showering them with splinters. Water gushed in. Elias stuffed the map back against his chest, feeling it fuse to his skin like hot wax. Ned stared, horrified, as the scarred compass rose migrated across Elias's collarbone, pointing not north, but down. 3 miles. The sea beneath them boiled. A shadow eclipsed the sun, tentacles thick as masts rising from the abyss, each sucker ringed with human teeth. The kraken had come for its due. The pirate crew cheered, waving their blades in salute to the beast they worshipped as god and guard dog. 2 miles. Ned's voice cracked. We can't outrun the Navy. We can't outgun the pirates. We can't outswim that. He pointed at the tentacles now braiding into a living net across their path. We're bait. 1 mile. Elias looked at the map, his skin now, and understood. The word sacrifice wasn't a warning. It was instruction. The kraken didn't want blood. It wanted balance, a life for a fleet. One beating heart to claim the 50 rotting ones below. And the bearer had to choose. Interactive poll hits crescendo. Should Elias offer Ned to the kraken to save himself and the fleet, or leap overboard and feed his own heart to the beast? Vote now, your choice locks the next scene. The Resolute's bow loomed like a cliff. The Crimson Widow's grappling hooks clanged onto the gunwale. Between them, the kraken's tentacles parted, revealing a maw lined with shipwreck hulls for teeth. The sea itself hushed, waiting. Elias stood. The map, his skin flared crimson, compass needle spinning wildly, then snapping toward his own heart. "Choose," the dead mask whispered through windless air. Behind him Ned whispered, "I'm not ready to die." Elias closed his eyes. In the darkness he saw the boy's future: schoolhouses, laughter, a life without salt and scars. He saw his own: chains, gallows, or worse, eternity stitched into another map. The Kraken roared, a sound like 1,000 ships breaking in half. Elias opened his eyes and jumped. The Kraken's maw yawned open like the gates of hell, splintered hulls for teeth, barnacles for tongues, the stench of 1,000 drowned sailors belching into the dawn. Elias hung mid-air, salt wind roaring in his ears, mapskin burning against his chest like a brand. .50 warships behind. .40 cutlasses ahead. .1 heartbeat left. 50 seconds. Ned's scream cut the air, a thin, high note swallowed by the Kraken's bellow. The boy clung to the lifeboat's tiller, knuckles white, eyes wide as doubloons. Behind him, the Crimson Widow's grappling hooks clanged onto the gunwale, steel teeth biting wood. Black-masked pirates surged forward, blades singing, boots drumming. They wanted the map. They wanted him. 40 seconds. The Resolute's bow chaser flashed, a tongue of orange fire arcing across the water. The cannonball skipped, once, twice, then imploded the lifeboat's stern in a spray of salt and splinters. Water gushed in. Ned screamed again. The Kraken shifted, tentacles braiding into a living net, blocking every escape route except down. 30 seconds. Elias's boots hit the deck, thud, knees buckling, mapskin flaring crimson. The compass rose migrated across his collarbone, needle spinning wildly, then snapping toward his own heart. Sacrifice. The word carved into the map's underside bled fresh ink. His own blood, drawn by the parchment itself. Ned's voice cracked. "I'm not ready to die." Elias met the boy's eyes, saw Sarah's face in them, the wife he couldn't save, the future he'd never have. Choose. Interactive freeze frame. Type sacrifice if Elias offers his life to the Kraken, or survive if he fights to live. Comment now. Your vote locks the ending. 20 seconds. The Kraken roared, a sound like 1,000 ships breaking in half. Its tentacles lashed. One cracked the air above Ned's head, another wrapped around the Crimson Widow's mainmast and snapped it like kindling. Pirates screamed. The Navy fired again. Boom. A ball whistled past Elias's ear and shattered the pirate captain's mask. The stitched face peeled away, revealing nothing beneath, just a hollow, eyeless skull that laughed without lungs. 10 seconds. Elias stood. The mapskin pulsed, once, twice, then split down the middle, revealing a second layer. Coordinates to the fleet graveyard, yes, but also a single word, glowing like molten gold. Sacrifice. Not a warning. A key. He looked at Ned, small, terrified, alive. He looked at the Kraken, ancient, hungry, waiting. He looked at the Resolute's cannons, loaded, aimed, ready. Choose. 5 seconds. Elias grabbed Ned by the collar, hard yank, and shoved the boy toward the fishing skiff still tethered to the lifeboat's side. "Live," he whispered, then he leapt. 4 seconds. Mid-air, wind roaring. Mapskin ablaze. The compass rose melting into his chest, branding him forever. Below, the Kraken's maw widened, tentacles curling like welcoming arms. 3 seconds. Ned's scream, "Elias!" Cut by the crack of the Navy's final broadside. Cannonballs whistled past Elias's ears, shredding the air, missing by inches. The Crimson Widow's deck erupted in flame and splinters. 2 seconds. Elias's boots touched the Kraken's tongue, wet, warm, alive. The beast shuddered, recognizing the map-bearer's heartbeat. Its tentacles lowered, forming a living bridge between the two fleets. 1 second. Elias stood on the threshold, 1 foot in life, 1 in death. He looked up. Ned's skiff vanished into the fog. The Resolute's cannons fell silent. The pirates froze, blades mid-swing. 0. Time stopped. Elias raised the mapskin like a banner. The Kraken bowed, the fleets parted, and in the sudden hush he smiled, a coward who finally chose courage. A coward dies 1,000 deaths. A hero chooses which one counts. Dawn bled gold across the Atlantic and the Kraken sank, not in defeat but in covenant. Its tentacles uncoiled from the broken fleets like silk scarves slipping from a lover's throat. .50 warships drifted. Masts snapped, cannons silent. Not one hull breached, not one soul lost, save the man who offered himself. Elias Finch stood chest deep on the creature's tongue, mapskin fused to his flesh, compass rose glowing over his heart like a second sunrise. The beast's eyes, ancient, lidless, knowing, met his. A bargain struck without words. 1 life for 50. A heartbeat passed. Then the Kraken lowered him gently onto the floating debris of the Crimson Widow's deck, bowed once and vanished into the deep. The sea closed behind it, flat, calm, Forgiving. Ned's skiff bumped the shattered hull. The boys scrambled aboard, boots slipping on blood-slick planks, tears carving clean lines through soot. "Mr. Finch?" His voice cracked like a fresh rope. Elias turned, slowly, painfully, and smiled, not the twitch of a coward, the quiet grin of a man who had finally paid the price he'd run from for years. Behind them, the Resolute's crew lowered rifles. Awestruck, Admiral Hawke himself stepped forward, epaulets glinting, and knelt, not to arrest but to honor. "By order of His Majesty," he declared, voice carrying across the hush, "Elias Finch is hereby pardoned and commissioned." A privateer's charter pressed into Elias's salt-crusted palm. "Captain of the Kraken's Mercy, tasked to chart waters no navy dares sail." Elias's laugh came out ragged, half sob, half thundered as he looked down. The mapskin had shifted again. Where the word sacrifice once burned, a new word glowed, soft, sunrise pink. "Home." Ned stepped closer, eyes wide. "What does it say?" "Directions," Elias whispered. "To a place no cannon can reach." He traced the glowing path, east, then south, then straight through the storm that never ends. "A schoolhouse on stilts." "A quiet cove where Sarah's voice still echoed in gull cry." "A future built from planks he'd once called cowardice." The Resolute's bosun rang 8 bells, the end of a watch, but Elias heard it as beginning. He pressed the charter to his chest, felt the Kraken's pulse beneath his ribs, and looked at Ned. "You still want to learn navigation?" The boy's grin could have powered a fleet. "Thought you'd never ask, Captain. Sometimes the greatest voyage begins when you stop running." The screen fades to parchment texture. A compass spins, then settles, needle pointing not north but forward.